Birmingham City Football Club is a professional association football club based in the city of Birmingham, England. Formed in 1875 as Small Heath Alliance, they became Small Heath in 1888, then Birmingham in 1905, finally becoming Birmingham City in 1943. They compete in the Football League Championship, the second tier of league football in England. As Small Heath, they played in the Football Alliance before becoming founder members and first ever champions of the Football League's second division. The most successful period in the history was in the 1950s and early 1960s. They achieved the highest finishing position of 6th in the first division in the 1955-56 season and reached the 1956 FA Cup final. Progressed to the final of the Intercities Fairs Cup in 1960 and 1961, and won the first major trophy, the League Cup, in 1963, beating Aston Villa 3-1 on aggregate. They won the latter competition for the second time in 2011. They have played in the top tier of English football for the majority of their history. The longest period spent outside the top division, between 1986 and 2002, included 2 brief spells in the third tier of the English League, during which time they twice won the Football League trophy. St Andrews has been the home ground since 1906. They have a long-standing and fierce rivalry with Aston Villa, the nearest neighbours, with whom they play the second city derby. The club's nickname is Blues, due to the colour of the kit, and the fans are known as Blue Noses. History: Birmingham City were founded as Small Heath Alliance in 1875, and from 1877 played the home games at Munt Street. The club turned professional in 1885, and 3 years later became the first football club to become a limited company with a board of directors, under the name of Small Heath F.C. Limited. For the 1889-90 season they played in the Football Alliance, which ran alongside the Football League. In 1892, Small Heath, along with the other Alliance teams, were invited to join the newly formed Football League's second division. They finished as champions, but failed to win promotion via the test match system. The following season, promotion to the first division was secured after a second-place finish and test match victory over Darwin. The club adopted the name Birmingham Football Club in 1905 and moved into the new home, St Andrews ground, the following year. Matters on the field failed to live up to the surroundings. Birmingham were relegated in 1908, obliged to apply for re-election 2 years later, and remained in the second division until after the First World War. Frank Womack's captaincy and the creativity of Scottish international playmaker Johnny Crosby contributed much to Birmingham winning the second Division Two title in 1920-21. Womack went on to make 515 appearances, a club record for an outfielder over a 20-year career. 1920 also saw the debut of the 19-year-old Joe Bradford, who went on to score a club record 267 goals in 445 games, and won 12 caps for England. In 1931, manager Leslie Knighton led the club to the first FA Cup final, which they lost 2-1 to second division club West Bromwich Albion. Though Birmingham remained in the top flight for 18 seasons, they struggled in the league, with much reliance placed on England goalkeeper Harry Hibbs to make up for the lack of goals Bradford accepted at the other end. They were finally relegated in 1939, the last full season before the Football League was abandoned for the duration of the Second World War. The name Birmingham City F.C. was adopted in 1943. under Harry Storer, appointed manager in 1945. The club won the Football League South Wartime League and reached the semi-final of the first post-war FA Cup. 2 years later they won the third second division title, conceding only 24 goals in the 42-game season. Storer's successor Bob Brocklebank, though unable to stave off relegation in 1950, brought in players who made a major contribution to the club's successes of the next decade. When Arthur Turner took over as manager in November 1954, he made them play closer to the potential, and a 5-1 win on the last day of the 1954-55 season confirmed them as champions. In the first season back in the First Division, Birmingham achieved the highest league finish of 6th place. They also reached the FA Cup final, losing 3-1 to Manchester City in the game, notable for City's goalkeeper Bert Trautmann playing the last 20 minutes with a broken bone in his neck. The following season the club lost in the FA Cup semi-final for the third time since the war, this time beaten 2-0 by Manchester United's Busby Babes. Birmingham became the first English club side to take part in European competition when they played the first group game in the inaugural Intercities Fairs Cup competition on 15 May 1956. They went on to reach the semi-final where they drew 4-4 on aggregate with Barcelona, losing the replay 2-1. They were also the first English club side to reach a European final, losing 4-1 on aggregate to Barcelona in the 1960 Fairs Cup final and 4-2 to AS Roma the following year. In the 1961 semi-final they beat Internazionale home and away. No other English club won a competitive game in the San Siro until Arsenal managed it. More than 40 years later, Gilmeric's side saved the best form for cup competitions, though opponents in the 1963 League Cup final, local rivals Aston Villa, were pre-match favourites. Birmingham raised the game and won 3-1 on aggregate to lift the first major trophy. In 1965, after 10 years in the top flight, they returned to the second division. Businessman Clifford Coombs took over as chairman in 1965, luring Stan Cullis out of retirement to manage the club. Cullis's team played attractive football which took them to the semi-finals of the League Cup in 1967 and the FA Cup in 1968. But league football needed a different approach. Successor Freddie Goodwin produced a team playing skillful, aggressive football that won promotion as well as reaching an FA Cup semi-final. 2 years later, the club raised money by selling Bob Blatchford to Everton for a British record fee of £350,000. But without his goals the team struggled. Sir Alf Ramsey briefly managed the club before Jim Smith took over in 1978. With relegation a certainty, the club sold Trevor Francis to Nottingham Forest, making him the first player transferred for a fee of £1 million. Francis had scored a total of 133 goals in 329 appearances over his 9 years at Birmingham. Smith took Birmingham straight back to the First Division, but a poor start to the 1981-82 season saw him replaced by Ron Saunders, who had just resigned from league champions Aston Villa. Saunders' team struggled to score goals and in 1984 they were relegated. They bounced back up, but the last home game of the 1984-85 promotion season against Leeds United was marred by rioting, culminating in the death of a boy when a wall collapsed on him. This was on the same day as the Bradford City Stadium fire, and the events at St Andrews formed part of the remit of Mr Justice Popplewell's inquiry into safety at sports grounds. The club lacked stability both on and off the field. Saunders quit after FA Cup defeat to non-league team Altrincham. Staff were laid off, the training ground was sold, and by 1989 Birmingham were in the third division for the first time in their history. In April 1989 the Kumar brothers, owners of a clothing chain, bought the club. A rapid turnover of managers, the absence of promised investment, and a threatened mass refusal of players to renew contracts was relieved only by a victorious trip to Wembley in the Associate Members' Cup. Terry Cooper delivered promotion, but the collapse of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International put the Kumars' businesses into receivership. In November 1992 BCCI's liquidator put up for sale their 84% holding in the football club. The club continued in administration for 4 months, until publisher David Sullivan bought it for £700,000, installed the then 23-year-old Karen Brady as managing director and allowed Cooper money for signings. On the last day of the season, the team avoided relegation back to the third tier, but after a poor start to the 1993-94 season, Cooper was replaced by Barry Fry. The change did not prevent relegation, but Fry's first full season brought promotion back to the second tier as champions, and victory in the Football League trophy at Wembley, beating Carlisle United with the Paul Tate golden goal, completed the lower league double. After one more year, Fry was sacked to make way for the return of Trevor Francis. Francis introduced players with top-level experience such as Manchester United skipper Steve Bruce. In his second season the club narrowly missed out on a playoff position, followed by 3 years of playoff semi-final defeats. They also reached the 2001 League Cup final against Liverpool at Cardiff's Millennium Stadium. Birmingham equalised in the last minute of normal time, but the match went to a penalty shootout which Liverpool won. By October 2001, lack of progress had made Francis's position untenable. After a 6-0 League Cup defeat to Manchester City, he left by mutual consent, replaced 2 months later by Steve Bruce. Bruce shook up a stale team, taking them from mid-table into the playoffs where they beat Norwich City on penalties to win promotion to the Premier League. Motivated by the inspirational Christophe Dugarry, Birmingham's first top-flight season for 16 years finished in mid-table. Loan signing Mikhail Forsell's 17 league goals helped Birmingham to a top-half finish in 2003-04, though performances and results tailed off badly towards the end of the season. First-team coach Mark Bowen was sacked and replaced by Eric Black. International players were signed, but an injury to Forsell left the 2004-05 team struggling for goals. More transfer window loan signings ensured another mid-table finish. Only 2 months later, Chairman David Gold said it was time to start talking about being as good as anyone outside the top 3 or 4 with the best squad of players. For 25 years, injuries, lack of form, and a lack of investment during the transfer window saw them relegated before the last game of a season whose lowlight was a 0-7 FA Cup defeat to Liverpool. Jermaine Pennant and Emile Heskey left for record fees. Many more were released, but Bruce retained the confidence of the board. His amended recruitment strategy combining young, hungry players with free transfer experience and shrewd exploitation of the loan market, brought automatic promotion at the end of a season which had included calls for his head. In July 2007, Hong Kong-based businessman Carson Yeung bought 29.9% of shares in the club, making him the biggest single shareholder, with a view to taking full control in the future. Uncertain as to his future under possible new owners, Bruce left in mid-season to become manager of Premier League rivals Wigan Athletic. His successor, Scotland national team manager Alex McLeish, was unable to stave off relegation, but achieved promotion back to the Premier League at the first attempt, and a 9th place finish, the best for 51 years, the following season. In 2011, they combined a second victory in the League Cup, defeating favourites Arsenal 2-1 with goals from Nicolas Igic and Obafemi Martins, and securing qualification for the Europa League, with relegation back to the second tier. McLeish resigned in June 2011 to join Aston Villa. Successor Chris Hughton narrowly failed to reach the knockout rounds of the Europa League and a play-off final before, with the club in financial turmoil and under a transfer embargo, leaving for Norwich City in June 2012. Under Lee Clark, Birmingham twice retained their divisional status, albeit through Paul Caddis's 93rd-minute goal in the last match of 2013-14 to avoid relegation on goal difference. After a continuation of the poor form from the previous season, Clark was sacked in October 2014, to be replaced by Burton Albion manager and former Birmingham player Gary Rowett. Colours and badge. The Small Heath Alliance members decided among themselves that their colours would be blue. In the early days, they wore whatever blue shirt they had. The first uniform kit was a dark blue shirt with a white sash and white shorts. Several variations on a blue theme were tried. The one that stuck was the royal blue shirt with a white V, adopted during the First World War and retained until the late 1920s. Though the design changed, the royal blue remained. In 1971 they adopted the penguin strip royal blue with a broad white central front panel, which lasted 5 years. Since then they have generally worn plain, nominally royal blue shirts, though the actual shade used has varied. Shorts have been either blue or white, and socks usually blue, white, or a combination, white, yellow, red and black, on their own or in combination, have been the most frequently used colors for the away kit. There have been aberrations. The 1992 kit, sponsored by Triton Showers, was made of a blue material covered with multicolored splashes which resembled a shower curtain. Birmingham have only worn stripes on the home shirt once. In 1999 they wore a blue shirt with a front central panel in narrow blue and white stripes, a design similar to the Tesco supermarket carrier bag of the time. When the club changed the name from Small Heath to Birmingham in 1905, they adopted the city's coat of arms as the crest, although this was not always worn on the shirts. The 1970s penguin shirt carried the letters BCFC intertwined at the center of the chest. The Sports Argus newspaper ran a competition in 1972 to design a new badge for the club. The winning entry, a line-drawn globe and ball, with ribbon carrying the club name and date of foundation, in plain blue and white, was adopted by the club but not worn on playing shirts until 1976. An experiment was made in the early 1990s with coloring in the globe and ball, but the club soon reverted to the plain version. For the 2016-17 season, the home kit is all blue, apart from white trim on the sleeves and 3 white stripes down the sides and round the sock tops. The away kit is all red, apart from white trim at the neck and under the sleeve, and 3 white stripes on the shoulders, shorts and sock tops. The kids, supplied by Adidas in this first season of a 4-year deal, bear the logo of online bookmaker 888 Sport, the club's principal sponsor. Sponsors' names and logos have appeared on the shirts since 1982. Tables of shirts, sponsors and kits suppliers appear below. Stadiums. Small Heath Alliance played the first home games on waste ground off Arthur Street, Bordsley Green. As interest grew, they moved to a fenced-off field in Ladypool Road, Sparkbrick, where admission could be charged. A year later, they moved again to a field adjoining Muntz Street, Small Heath, near the main Coventry Road, with a capacity of about 10,000. The Muntz Street ground was adequate for 1880s friendly matches, and the capacity was gradually raised to around 30,000. But when several thousand spectators scaled walls and broke down turnstiles to get into a First Division match against Aston Villa, it became clear that it could no longer cope with the demand. Director Harry Morris identified the site for a new ground in Bordsley Green, some 3/4 of a mile from Muntz Street towards the city centre. The site was where a brickworks once operated. The land sloped steeply down to stagnant pools. Yet the stadium was constructed in under 12 months from land clearance to opening ceremony on Boxing Day 1906. Heavy snow nearly prevented the opening. Volunteers had to clear pitch and terraces before the match. A goalless draw against Middlesbrough to go ahead. The ground is reputed to have been cursed by gypsies evicted from the site, although gypsies are known to have camped nearby. There is no contemporary evidence for their eviction by the club. The original capacity of St Andrews was reported as 75,000, with 4,000 seats in the main stand and space for 22,000 under cover. By 1938 the official capacity was 68,000, and February 1939 saw the attendance record set at the fifth round FA Cup tie against Everton, variously recorded as 66,844 or 67,341. On the outbreak of the Second World War, the Chief Constable ordered the ground's closure because of the danger from air raids. It was the only ground to be thus closed, and was only reopened after the matter was raised in Parliament. It was badly damaged during the Birmingham Blitz, the railway end and the Kop as a result of bombing, while the main stand burnt down when a fireman mistook petrol for water. The replacement main stand used a propped cantilever roof design, which meant fewer pillars to block spectators' view of the pitch. Floodlights were installed in 1956, and officially switched on for a friendly match against Borussia Dortmund in 1957. By the early 1960s a stand had been built at the railway end too, the same design as the main stand. Roofs had been put on the Kop and Tilton Road end, and the ground capacity was down to about 55,000, resulting from the 1986 Popplewell Report into the Safety of Sports Grounds and the later Taylor Report. The capacity of St Andrews was set at 28,235 for safety reasons, but it was accepted that the stadium had to be brought up to modern all-seated standards. After the last home game of the 1993-94 season, the Kop and Tilton Road terraces were demolished. Fans took home a significant proportion as souvenirs, to be replaced at the start of the new season by a 7,000-seat Tilton Road stand, continuing round the corner into the 9,500-seat Kop, which opened 2 months later. The 8,000-seat railway stand followed in 1999. 10 years later, this was renamed the Gil Merrick music stand, in honor of the club's appearance record holder and former manager, but the main stand has still to be modernized. In 2013, the club website listed the stadium capacity as 30,016. In 2004, a proposal was put forward to build a sports village comprising a new 55,000 capacity stadium for the club, to be known as the City of Birmingham Stadium, other sports and leisure facilities, and a super casino. The project would be jointly financed by Birmingham City Council, Birmingham City F.C. and the casino group Las Vegas Sands. The feasibility of the plan depended on the government issuing a license for a super casino, and Birmingham being chosen as the venue. But this did not happen. The club have planning permission to redevelop the main stand, but club and council have continued to seek alternative sources of funding for the City of Birmingham Stadium project. In 2013, the Birmingham City Supporters Trust's application for listing St Andrews as an asset of community value, a building or other land whose main use furthers the social well-being or social interests of the local community, and where it is realistic to believe it could do so in the future, under the Localism Act 2011, was approved by Birmingham City Council. This requires any proposed sale to be notified to the council, and provides for a 6-month moratorium on that sale to allow the trust and other community groups to submit their own bid. Supporters. Birmingham fans consider the main rivals to be Aston Villa, the nearest neighbours geographically, with whom they contest the second city derby. Lesser rivalries exist with fellow West Midlands clubs Wolverhampton Wanderers and West Bromwich Albion. According to a 2003 Football Fans Census survey, Aston Villa fans thought of Birmingham City as the main rivals, though this was not always the case. Birmingham's supporters are generally referred to as Blue Noses in the media and by the fans themselves. The name is also used in a derogatory manner by fans of other clubs. A piece of public sculpture in the form of a 10 times life-size head lying on a mound near the St Andrews ground, Andrei Novakovsky's sleeping iron giant, has been repeatedly defaced with blue paint on its nose. Between 1994 and 1997, the club mascot took the form of a blue nose, though it is now a dog called Beau Brummie, a play on the name Beau Brummel and Brummie, the slang word for a person from Birmingham. A number of supporters clubs are affiliated to the football club, both in England and abroad. An action group was formed in 1991 to protest against Chairman Samesh Kumar. The club blamed an internet petition for the collapse of the purchase of player Lee Bowyer in 2005, and antipathy towards the board provoked hostile chanting and a pitch invasion after the last match of the 2007-08 season. But when the club was in financial difficulties, supporters contributed to schemes which funded the purchase of players Brian Roberts in 1984 and Paul Pesky Solido in 1992. A supporters trust was formed under the auspices of Supporters Direct in 2012. There have been several fanzines published by supporters. Made in Brum, first issued in 2000, was the only one regularly on sale in 2013. The Zulu began some years earlier and ran for at least 16 seasons. The hooligan firm associated with the club, the Zulus, were unusual in that they had multiracial membership at a time when many such firms had associations with racist to right-wing groups. The fans' anthem, an adaptation of Harry Lauder's Keep Right On to the End of the Road, was adopted during the 1956 FA Cup campaign. The Times football correspondent described in his cup final preview how the Birmingham Clans swept the side along to Wembley the first side ever to reach a final without once playing at home. On the wings of the song "Keep Right On to the End of the Road," player Alex Govan is credited with popularizing the song by singing it on the coach on the way to the quarter-final, and when he revealed in an interview that it was his favorite. In the build-up to the 1956 FA Cup semi-final with Sunderland, I was interviewed by the press and happened to let slip that my favorite song was Harry Lauder's old music hall number, "Keep Right On to the End of the Road." I thought no more about it, but when the third goal went in at Hillsborough, the Blues fans all started singing it. It was the proudest moment of my life.